All right. Well, let's see. It is 7:00 something, and let's call the meeting to order. It looks like the next one, roll call and determination of quorum. You want to go for that, Chris?
Sure thing. So it looks like we have Bill, Donnie, Lou, Vince, George, and myself for TAC members. So it looks like we do have a quorum.
Awesome. Thank you.
Did I miss anyone?
No, what member are we missing now?
All right. We'll take that as a no. I think you got everybody.
Okay.
And Brian may be joining really late, but hi, Ralph.
Hello.
All right. So approval of the minutes.
We have two additional guests, Mr. Chair. We have Mark Tofano with us tonight and Michael Bawalas, as well as Mr. Ralph Mazzara.
Well, hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hi, Michael. Okay, so does anybody want to review anything in particular on the November minutes?
No,
All right.
Lou, did I capture your update properly regarding the proposed cat station? I just
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you. Would somebody want to second the motion?
I say.
Thank you, George. All right. Let's do the quick roll call. Lou? Approved.
Approved.
All right. Let's see. George seconded. Vince made the motion. Chris?
Approved.
I approve as well. Unanimous vote. Oh, sorry, Donnie. Donnie.
Approved.
Approved. Thank you.
I'm sorry. And Donnie is not a voting member unless to break a tie.
Oh, right, you are.
Just to be safe, I said approved, but you're right.
We appreciate that, Donnie. Thank you.
We do appreciate Donnie being a team member.
I appreciate you all as well.
Oh, how nice. Okay, by unanimous vote, they are approved. Let's move on into announcements and unfinished business. Announcements. Susan.
You're on mute, Susan.
Unmute.
She says, hang on. She's looking for something.
Oh,
She's yelling into the computer. There she goes.
I was in the middle of pulling up the staff announcements when Lou was expressing that he needed to see the agenda, and so then I lost my announcements. But here I have them. I updated the TAC webpage to add a link to Transportation Project Map and tag materials provided by Mr. Rhodes. Thank you very much. So as he gets them digitally and asked me to upload them, they are there on the TAC page. So thank you for doing that, Donnie. And the advisory board handbook that I sent all of you, did everyone receive that? Do I have a thumbs up? Thumbs up. Chris got it. Donnie got it.
What is that?
The advisory board handbook that you got that one too. Okay. And Bill. Okay. So you guys got that. Now, Lori is going to be working on updates to that. It's still very relevant, so I appreciate a review of that. But if you see anything in there that needs to be added, she would appreciate any feedback that you have or anything that maybe is unclear about how we do our meetings or unclear in the handbook. Just email me and or Lori, and she'll put that under consideration for the revision to the handbook. So those are my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, let's jump into unfinished business. Can you re-show that agenda?
Yeah, I can. You got it?
Speed hump policy. So Vince drafted a memo of the memo that we're going to send to the Board of Commissioners. Well done, Vince. Should we, I'll tell you what, how about I just try to read through this real quickly, and after we're done reading through it, if anybody wants to make any additional recommendations, otherwise we'll just give Vince the thumbs up to send this on to the Board of Commissioners. Okay. Transportation Advisory Committee would like to modify our current speed hump policy for the town of Matthews. We feel our current policy does not encompass all options that may be available to better serve some of the streets and housing developments in our town. We would like to change the title of the policy from speed hump policy to traffic calming policy. Traffic calming references several options to be considered to slow traffic rather than just the speed hump policy to slow traffic down in some areas of town. The committee would also like to suggest changes to the current policy. For example, the use of speed humps, which is our only option. It is not always the best option in every case, but the current policy does not provide other suitable options to be considered, depending on the specific street or development. After researching, we found 3 towns in North Carolina that have traffic calming policies and procedures, of which Ayden appeared to have the best option that may fit the town of Matthews the best. The other towns also had good ideas that may be, or that maybe can extract from their policies. None of the 3 towns was a perfect fit. As a result, this preliminary study by the committee, we recommend the town board of commissioners authorize funds for a professional engineer or firm to review our current speed hump policy and develop traffic calming policy that would best fit the town of Matthews and its vision statement. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Now I'm going to just say, let's keep the discussion. If there is any proposal for change to substantial content, I think the verbiage and stuff, we could change that 10 different ways, and it's not going to make any difference. I think Vince's memo is perfect in terms of the grammar and such. So does anybody have any questions, concerns, or proposed changes to the content of this?
My understanding is this will be part of the minutes, correct?
This would be, what is this memo itself?
The memo, yes. Not separate.
So your idea would be that we embed this in the minutes for next meeting? Is that what you're saying, Lou?
No, that it would be passed as part of the minutes of this meeting.
That was not the intent, no. This is an agenda item that we're talking about now. I'm not quite sure what difference that makes, but we're looking at it now. We're talking about the content, Lou, and we're going to basically give Vince the thumbs up to forward it to the Board of Commissioners if we agree it contains the right content.
Lou, were you asking? So I guess that was the question. My question as well is, how is this delivered? Is it just via the official minutes, attached to the meeting minutes, and the minutes go to the board, or is that something? Is there a process in place to officially submit it? Is that
correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Whatever is submitted whatever is submitted becomes a part of minutes. Anything that's submitted.
Okay.
Gotcha. This is a submittal, as I understand it, a submittal, not a recommendation that's been voted on by the board, by the committee.
Quite sure what difference that makes. The end goal is to send a memo to the town board. And I think I'm understanding the words that you're saying, Lou. What I'm trying to get to is what we apparently had agreed to in November, and that was to have Vince draft a memo, and we would review the memo and recommend that the memo be forwarded on to the Board of Commissioners. Now, whether or not this content will become a part of our January TAC meeting minutes or whether it is not part of the meeting minutes. It's just simply mentioned in the meeting minutes. I guess the objective of this review is to recommend that we either change the content of this now, or we recommend that we forward it to the Board of Commissioners.
Well, I approve. I approve the memo. I think it's well written and it should be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners.
George, is that a motion?
Yes, it is. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, George.
I'll second that.
All right. Lou, up or down vote?
I've got some concerns about how much it costs. I think that really should be an estimate of the cost when staff discusses this. An estimate of the cost should be provided. It's my understanding that the budget is tight, and so that's what I would like to see.
George,
We'll go there.
if I may,
Let them see if they like it or not before we decide if they're going to go ahead and do it.
if you read the very last paragraph, it just says we're authorizing funds for an engineer or a firm to review the whole thing. And then at that point, I'm sure, and Susan can correct me, if they come up with recommendations, I don't know if they would also say, and it will cost approximately this much money. And if that's the case, then I'm sure it comes back to us. We pick something from what they said or decide on something as a committee. And then at that point, we can submit that back to the commissioner and say, based on the study, the committee has decided to go with this plan. And then there will be a price tag already attached. And Susan, am I on the right track?
Sorry, my computer's being super wonky today. So yeah, and I think I dropped the ball. I was like, this is sounding familiar. I was going to reach out to a couple consultants to see how much this would cost. The concern being that I probably wouldn't be able to get to this work until 2022, and you all wanted to come up with something sooner. And so the only way to get something sooner than when I can get to it would be to hire it out. And so I apologize. I was remiss in not reaching out to consultants to see how much this would cost.
Okay, look, we started a vote. I'll approve.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I seconded.
Oh, thank you. Okay, and I'll, Vince?
I approve.
And I approve as well. So unanimous. So thank you all. Long time we get to this point. Appreciate the input. Lou, I hear your concern, and I guess we can make a tell you what. Let's just kind of make note of that in the minutes, Chris. That it would be good to get an idea of the cost of these consultants. If the board agrees to do it, just for the sake of understanding, right? Is that fair, Lou?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, who do I send this to? Just send this to Lori?
I will take care of getting it to the board.
Oh, you will?
Yeah, so I'll let you all know, because I was in mid-conversation with CJ and Lori about how to get it to the board when CJ said, talk to the consultants, and I didn't realize that I didn't close the loop on it. But I think it's something that either Bill would be invited to the board meeting to read it, or I would present it.
Okay.
Either way.
Can we just, the only thing I would probably recommend is just change the date at the top. But that's up to you guys. Because the date still reflects December 9th. So if we want this the most current, when it's approved, it would be tonight.
It's up to you, Vince. Whatever you send me is what I'll send on. I think you wrote it on December 9th.
I did.
You want to put it to the date that you want to send it. It's adopted. You can do that. It's whatever you tell me to send as
All
well.
right. I'll put the date down as today because that's the date we voted and approved it, and then I'll forward it to you. Is that right?
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Susan and Vince. Well done, Vince.
Thank you.
All right. Town vision statement, Vision 5, expanded park and open space system. Susan, there we go. Thank you. Matthews has steadily added to its parks and open spaces with an extensive system of greenway trails and multi-use paths connecting residents to schools, parks, and neighborhoods. That's it? That's the entire statement, right? Okay. Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns on this? I think the objective of these vision statements review are just for reiterating how we would plug into this and how we would support these vision statements by the town. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think it's fine. No, Bill, I think it's fine the way it is.
It aligns with number 3 with the walkable, bikeable community. I think that as far as our input.
The goal
Yeah,
of
it's a
this
good observation.
exercise is to talk about this vision statement. We're not changing them. We already adopted it. What does this mean to you as a Matthews resident? And how do we apply this vision statement to the work in the TAC? And so Chris, can you repeat that? I just wanted to make it clear that we're not changing these.
Yeah, I was just saying that it aligns with, I think it was vision number 3, which we had talked about earlier about, walkable, bikeable, kind of as far as the TAC is concerned, right?
I think, Chris, you're right. It falls right in line with what we're about as well.
Sorry for the noise. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So in terms of the extensive system of greenway trails and multi-use paths, I know that we've had a play in recommending multi-use paths along some roadways, especially in areas where there's development. And so I think that we have been fairly consistent on recommending multi-use paths and slowly, we understand that this is, it's a slow march, but the connected part of this is something that is gradually happening. Susan, I still want to get with you and do the bike ride around Matthews. December didn't work out for me, but I would love to hear and see what you know about Matthews that probably I don't.
It was a great tour that we had on December 10th or November 29th or something like that. And but it was all staff. No TAC members attended and no board members attended. So that was maybe a little frustrating, but I just took the opportunity to invite every staff member that is involved with the side paths and greenways to join us. And so we had members from the planning department, admin, public works, and parks. And there were about 20 of us. Wow. And we had a great little ride. A police officer stopped the traffic on John Street for us so that we could all cross together to get over to 4 Mile Greenway. And we stopped several times. The discussion was maybe a little bit different. We talked about staff challenges in funding, delays, constraints, things like that. But it would be great to get all of you on this loop. The loop utilizes existing side paths built by the town, built by private development, built by the county, the Greenway by the county. And then there's 2 on-street segments, and one is on South Trade, which driving it is terrible. Vince, how do you feel riding your motorcycle on South Trade Street there in front of the school and the fire department?
Well,
they're fun.
You know what I feel about that traffic light that's at John and Trade, which backs the traffic up almost to the school a lot.
Yeah.
So you already know how I feel about that.
Yeah, we weren't well respected on South Trade Street. Unfortunately, a big group ride like that. There was an angry driver who expressed their feelings towards us. But it was a great ride, and so my temperature cutoff is usually around 46 degrees, maybe 50. I'm getting older, so. Do you want me to find another 50-degree Friday and schedule a ride? Yeah, so some of you missed it. Some staff members missed it too and really want to drive. About 8 people that are interested in it. So
I'll join in this time. If I'm available, I'd like to join in on the ride.
Yeah, I'd love to. I wasn't able to on the last one. So if you do happen to do one, I'd be interested.
I'll even bring a bicycle instead of my cycle.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
That would be awesome, Vince. I'll tell you what, I'll send you the days, Susan, that would absolutely not work for me.
Okay.
Okay. And maybe if I'd suggest Vince and Donnie and Chris, if you could do the same.
Yeah, we'll do.
And one thing from the transportation professional side on this expanded park and open space system is, people prefer to ride their bike on a greenway, right? Mm-hmm. For obvious reasons. There's no traffic, the disgruntled driver I spoke of. And so you can use the greenways as transportation, not just recreation. And so whenever greenways comes up, it might be quick to say, oh, that's park and rec because it's recreation, when in fact, it can actually be transportation. And same with open space. If there's a connected park system, you could get all the way from Pleasant Plains through Squirrel Lake and into downtown, right, through a connected park system. So this is something that Dana and I definitely utilize Corey's team in finding out what he's envisioning for greenways. And also they are currently working with Mecklenburg County in the Mecklenburg Greenways Playbook or something like that is their current effort in connecting all the greenways in Mecklenburg County.
It would seem to be a little bit dangerous to promote greenways as a means of transportation. We are looking at electric bikes, which can also go to ATVs and various other forms of powered transportation. So the idea of, using it as a bicycle means of transportation would seem to make sense, but there needs to be some kind I'll stop there.
No, don't stop, because this is so timely, because Dana was literally talking about ordinances for motorized micromobility and getting that discussion started. Where are we going to allow them? Sidewalks, not on sidewalks? Sorry, George, go right ahead. You're going to talk about the ordinances?
The Greenway, I thought the rules were established. No motorized vehicles of any type are allowed on the Greenway. That's in the original
is it?
Draw up document of it. There's be no motorized type vehicles on the Greenway.
I believe, and I'll have to double check. I believe that's on the signage as well. But the police
and in some respects, George, you're right. But if you walk the Greenway, you'll see on there, and I walk it quite often, a lot of the kids and people now are using those electric, what do you call them? Scooters, like you just, like a skateboard with a tall front. They're using those quite a bit. I've seen the not Segways, just the skateboard electric ones, and anything electric I'm starting to see more and more of. I've seen electric bicycles now going on there. So, motorized is, yes, you're right, but these people are not bringing motorized equipment. They're bringing electric. I don't know if now electric falls under that category, and that might be something Parks and Rec has to look at.
Let me comment on that. A motor is an electrical device. A car engine or a go-kart or ATV is an internal combustion engine. That is the technical difference. And if you're going to post it on a sign, you could get into a discussion about motors versus internal combustion engines. Both would seem to, because of their speed relative to the speed of a pedal bicycle or pedestrians would seem to create a danger, which is back to the came circle to what I said originally.
Right, very interesting. A lot of people think that e-bikes kind of skirt some of that because they're actually, most of them at least, are pedal assist. They're not, you stop pedaling, the motor stops. So, I appreciate what you're saying, Lou. I'm just wondering how that communication would come out in the end if they did say non-motorized means electric powered anything. How would that come out and how would that be enforced and things like that?
Only manual propulsion.
Well, yeah, you could make the argument that the pedal assist e-bikes are manual drive. I'm just saying there's a gray area in there somewhere, and I think your points are well taken, George and Lou. George or Vince, in your time on the Greenway, have you seen people being unreasonably dangerous with those equipment?
No, I haven't seen anybody with them. And the only one that I've ever seen with an ATV is, I forget his name. I talked to him. He works for Parks and Rec and he empties the garbage cans. He's the only one I've seen there, but the rest of them are mostly kids on those little scooters that are electric and they go zipping around, but they haven't been real dangerous or, I've never seen an accident or anybody getting run over. So,
I'm on the Greenway a lot. And anecdotally, the only time I almost got hit by a bike was just a manual bike, a jerk on a manual bike. So.
We could just ask Donnie to stop taking his motorized skateboard on the Greenway.
There you go. Ralph, that applies to you too, Ralph.
I think this is a valuable discussion. Should we add this as an agenda item for the next meeting?
What are we going to talk about?
I have noted to do some research on what George said is that it's currently no motorized vehicles on the Greenway. So that's on my to-do list. And maybe once I find out more and then find out from Dana when she's going to work on the ordinance, then we can bring it back up. How about that?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
You could have that guy take a picture of the sign if you want to see what it looks like. That I forget.
Are you talking about Terry? Terry Treadway?
He's always on the Greenway cleaning up.
He works for Public Works, yeah.
Yeah, he talks to me all the time, but I forgot his name. But anyway, maybe he could just take a shot of it and send it to you.
It's across the street from my house. I can do that.
Oh, okay.
But don't do it now because you're in a cabin somewhere.
It's not across from me right now.
Where is your cabin?
No, moving on. We only have Chris until 8.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Enough small talk. Bylaws.
Now we can talk about if any changes need to be made because these are the TAC bylaws.
All right, and we are to review Article 3. Which one of these are
just two? I couldn't pull it out. Sorry. So that's the whole thing. It's just 2.
The mission statement. The mission of the Matthews Transportation Advisory Committee is to provide accurate and timely advice to the Matthews Board of Commissioners on issues involving the transportation of people or goods within the greater Matthews area. In addition, TAC will provide first level of evaluation and interface between individuals or businesses and the town, expressing concerns about or requesting modifications to existing transportation systems in Matthews. TAC members will act as Matthews' eyes and ears in the surrounding communities and collect pertinent information regarding transportation issues that may present opportunities for or create obstacles to an efficient transportation system within the town. I don't think this mission statement has changed at all since I've been on the TAC. Is there anything glaring here that anybody wants to talk about? Any does anybody see the need to do anything more than just review this? I think the intent of this is not necessarily to propose a new mission statement, but just to, at the start of a new year, new month, gives an opportunity to just revisit what we do.
Bill, maybe to answer your question, I don't really see any reason to make any changes or modifications to it unless someone can come up with something that we're completely missing. But if we're not, I don't think there's any reason to just reword stuff.
I agree.
I agree as well.
I don't see a reason to change it. My only comment is I think if we could find a way to maybe better get input from the surrounding communities, because I talk to my neighbors, but most of them are a lot like me. So it'd be interesting to figure out a way to get a more geographically and demographically diverse feedback from the town, I guess. I don't know if other committees in the town have found a way to do that well, or if it's just something that, once COVID is over, we can walk around more.
Interesting observation, Chris. I hear a lot about things here in my neighborhood, probably similar to you. A lot of people come to me specifically with questions and, more statements about what we ought to do than questions. I couldn't agree more. It would be nice to have a bulletin board where people could post their ideas or their concerns. And then maybe we could digest those things. Susan, do you know if there's any other committees that have an online submit your ideas here sort of thing?
So far, I'm not liking this meeting because I have a to-do list that's 4 items long, and we're only halfway through. And so I just wrote down, ? Have other committees had good experience tactics getting information from surrounding communities? So I know a lot of the other staff liaisons, so I will tackle that in the coming months and report back to you. This is really interesting. My first thought was, we'll attend public meetings for transportation projects that I invite you to and hear what everyone else is saying and think about what everyone else is saying, because you have that context of being on this committee and saying, oh, what they're saying is kind of true, but what we could do is this because of your experience on this committee. And so to me, that's like the first thing is to attend those public meetings and hear and read other people's comments. But I will definitely ask other liaisons.
Thank you. And your point about the open meetings and receiving town input, that's good advice as well. And that is certainly a way that we can do it. All right. Any other comments?
I think Vince is raising his hand, but it's getting cut off.
Well, I just had a quick question. You said this is as old as you've been around, Bill? And if that's the case, is number 6 already been taken care of since we built that bus station?
Number 6.
Number 6 says provide input into a future Matthews Transit Center. Isn't that the building that's over there behind the Hampton Inn?
That's next month. Are you looking at Article 3?
No, I'm looking at number 6.
You're looking at Article 3. We're working on Article 2. Always working ahead, Vince.
Article 2 is the whole statement. Okay. I think the statement's wonderful.
All right. Next
On that
agenda item.
On that note.
On that note.
Okay. Glad to play along.
TAC elections.
Thank you for playing.
Article 4, committee shall elect the chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary, and election shall take place in January. Anybody want to throw their hat in for chairman or vice chairman or secretary?
I'll throw my hat in for assistant or vice chairman if nobody else.
Anybody want to throw their hat in for secretary?
Yeah, Chris, that's who I vote for.
Donnie,
I'll
here's your
throw it back.
chance.
I'll throw it back at you.
My chance. I know I'm the secretary on a number of other committees, and a year from now, I'm more than willing to put my name out there.
Yeah, I don't mind doing it for another year. That's fine.
Okay. All right.
Anybody Bill, are you throwing your hat in for chairman? I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, I will willingly put my name in as chairperson for next year. Okay, so let's see. Let's move on to elections then. Let's start with secretary. Does somebody want to officially nominate? Well, I'll tell you what. This is not we're not recording this is different from voting on a motion, I think, right?
Okay.
I always forget how these things are supposed to take place.
I'll make a motion that we continue with the existing chairman, vice chairman, and secretary.
That's smart, George.
Is it legal? Can we do that?
I
I
don't
don't see
know.
why not.
I mean, it saves typing for me, but
As long as it didn't come from the chair, there's no problem.
Well, then we just need a second, and I guess everybody has to be unanimous, and I guess it goes through that way.
You guys could pause for just a minute. I'm pulling up the guidelines and see if it's
While you're doing that, Susan, if you guys remember the last election, we were in the boardroom, and all somebody did was say, does anybody want to do it? They said, I nominate. And, and Bill said, okay, I'll take it. And then everybody said it was unanimous. So it's pretty much the same system, except we did it individually in the boardroom. Lou, what do you think? You're quiet here.
I don't have an opinion on that. I'm not real sure it requires a vote.
You gonna second the motion?
Well, it's an election, doesn't it? Doesn't a vote require an election? I mean, election require a vote? I don't know. I thought it did. Otherwise, it becomes self-appointed, and I don't think that's...
Well,
no.
you need somebody to
Don't want
make a second to the motion.
Susan is bringing us some more information.
Yeah,
making sure
she
we're-
is.
Yeah, it's not
We're-
contained in the handbook at all as to how, and I'm not familiar with Robert's rules of order on this. So I think George's motion is fine in my opinion.
Okay.
Does anybody
George's
want to second it? Sorry, Bill.
No, it's all right. So I guess let's be clear. We have 3 people out of 4 voting members. Out of 5 voting members on the ticket. One has submitted the motion, and the rest of us are kind of vested in this decision. So, I mean, I'm okay if Vince or Chris or Lou, any of you makes the second, but it's up to you.
Can we make a second on our own name?
Yes.
Oh, well, then I guess I second it.
Okay.
I second George's motion.
All right, Lou.
I've got some concerns about long-term possession of an office, but okay, I will approve.
Okay. Chris?
approve.
And I'll approve as well by unanimous vote. We stay with me as the chair, Vince as the vice chair, and Chris as the secretary.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
So Lou, I appreciate your comment, and eventually we'll get to a section in our bylaws, and maybe maybe want to propose some verbiage about how many terms. So maybe be thinking about that Article 6 officers is where we might want to add something like that. So if you want to be thinking about that, that'll be coming up in a couple months.
Okay.
And Lou, I hear that as well. And honestly, it was never my intent to be the chair for as long as I have. So we can continue to talk about the next chair as the year goes on. All right.
I'm sorry. I'm not. Do we? I mean, what are we doing with Preston's position? Has that been discussed further?
Yeah,
we are kind of down one.
It has not been discussed. There is a clause saying that if you miss, I want to say more than 2 consecutive meetings. Three
I
consecutive
think it's
meetings.
three all year.
3 all year. Okay, you're right. Okay, that's right. That you may lose your spot on the committee. How do we go about this?
Can we send a registered letter to Preston and ask him if he's still interested, or should he resign?
I mean, Bill, haven't you talked to him and you said you were going to talk to him like November, December? And I mean, nothing against Preston, but we haven't seen him all year on the Zoom meetings. And, you know, we really do need some bodies, because every once in a while we get to a point where only 2 or 3 of us show up and we don't even have a quorum. So I'd like to get an active participant on the committee.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't remember if it was October or November when I talked to him. He was enthusiastically planning on attending that TAC meeting in the upcoming week. And again, I wish I could remember if it was October or
I think
November.
it was May.
I did talk to him in May. You're right, Susan. But I talked to him again in the fall.
Okay.
And then here we are now, January, after the holidays, after everything.
So
I don't know
Would
the
you-
process or procedure for saying anything to him.
Susan?
It's not well defined. So here's the article on attendance, and it says any member who shall fail to attend at least 75% of the regular and special meetings during any 1-year period may be removed. It doesn't say shall, but so I just want to emphasize that the chairperson shall notify the town board of commissioners of any member who shall so fail to attend.
Okay.
I put everyone's name, I notified you back in October and November that everyone needed to be reappointed, and it wasn't brought up to me at the time that there was a concern. So his name was put in with the group for reappointments. So he's just recently been reappointed. So bear that in mind as well. And it's up to you all and how you want to proceed.
Thanks for this, Susan. I will write a note to the Board of Commissioners to this effect.
I think the note maybe goes to Lori.
To Lori? Okay.
Or you can send it to me and I'll forward it to Lori.
Okay.
Now, are you going to contact him then, Bill?
I could. I mean, yeah, I'll do that. I think that's a responsible thing to do, Vince.
And then we need to find a replacement, because I'd like to have a full committee.
My hesitation in saying that I could do that or that I would do that is simply that I feel like I've already done that. But this is a little bit different context. So I'll reach out to him one more time.
He's got this particular reach out is going to have to be based on our bylaws, Article 8. You have not attended. And so as a result, we need to create a full committee, and this is the only way to do it. And we're going to, and you're going to have to ask them to be removed. That's all.
Yep.
It's not a personal thing. It's just a lack of attendance.
I understand. And I'll have to do that. Okay.
I have a question. Is maybe he's sort of like me, wary of not knowledgeable using a computer, and he doesn't know how to get on Zoom?
Well, he could have said something, George.
Huh?
He could have said something.
Yeah.
I mean, he never made that as an excuse to Bill that I'm aware of. So
He said just the
I think
opposite.
you should ask him that question. You know,
Yes,
some people
I did.
don't want to know that they're out of date. So like me.
I asked him that specific question, and he told me that he uses online video chat with his employer during COVID. So he has the equipment, he has the ability. But spot on, George. Your concern is valid. Is that part of the issue here? I certainly willing to have that conversation with him, and I'll put it kind of similar to that. You know, is there any technology barrier? I don't think so though. But he's pretty savvy from what I've seen.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we go, I've got a few things I want to talk about.
Okay. Should we move on with the agenda items, and then
Yeah.
you're up after that, George?
Yes.
Okay, rezonings. 2027-25.
What's with the Moore property on Pleasant Plains?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about, shall we? So then the public hearing is going to be February 8th. And that is when it goes to the board for public hearing. And so this, for those of you that aren't familiar with the Moore property like George is, I'll zoom in. Purple is Matthews here. So here we are on Pleasant Plains Road. By the highway. Let me get an aerial on here. This is the Swim and Racket Club. Right here, Brightmoor's on your left as you cross over the highway. Swim and Racket Club is on the right. It's this little parcel right here.
That's it.
And that's this little parcel right here is just a single family home. And they are, there we go, slowly.
You're going to have to ask for a new computer, Susan.
I mean, really, it's been quite a night. All right, don't wake the baby. I won't move it anymore. So here's that rectangular parcel. Here's the driveway to the Swim and Racket Club. They're proposing a driveway off the driveway into these duets, which formerly known as duplexes. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 of them. So 16 multifamily or duets on this private street with these little stub ins here. We don't have any architectural elevations. It is below our traffic study threshold. And we are not anticipating any improvements to Pleasant Plains Road. They do have to go through NCDOT with a driveway permit for change of use on this driveway. That's the Swim and Racket Club. Comments from staff so far have been to include the 10-foot wide multi-use path that's proposed on Pleasant Plains Road as the required frontage improvements. And to also build an internal system of sidewalks, possibly to the Racket Club, and somehow get that internal system of sidewalk to the public walkway. This line in here is a power easement. So another concern I had was these homes are very close to an unusable backyard area. Did they intend to do that? And their BMP is on the high side. I mean, that's not transportation, that's stormwater, but the ground slopes towards the sports or the racket club. So I don't know how they're going to get that stormwater up there. We don't know what their street typical section is, but they are proposing private streets. We don't know if it's curb and gutter. So this is going to public hearing. Any thoughts on this from transportation?
How wide is the internal street?
I'll try and see if I can get to. So they're proposing a 20-foot wide street, whether it's curbed or uncurbed, it'll be 20 feet wide.
They allowing parking on both sides?
Well,
And the reason I'm asking that is for fire trucks.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment, is that parking would not be allowed because 20-foot wide is the clear. Now, Chief K was not in our meeting when we discussed this. I assume it's going to be one of his comments. That's a good comment, Vince.
Isn't there, go ahead. Isn't there a requirement for a certain number of outside parking spaces to be provided in a subdivision, in a multifamily subdivision?
This is RVS, and so that could be the variance that they're, one of the flexible development standards that they're requesting.
And they built all this and we have no idea how high they are? They
Staff
drew all
is-
of this? I'm sorry.
Staff is requesting architectural elevations.
I'm just surprised that the architect never put it in here.
I'm not sure.
So my first thought was, aren't they proposing a driveway onto the Racket Club property?
Yes, one of staff's comments is to provide a written access easement from the adjacent property owner.
Isn't that driveway going onto Privet Road? Right?
Pleasant Plains?
No.
No, this is the driveway to the Racket Club.
Otherwise, they'll come out the same entrance as the club.
Yes. Is the club okay with this? Or do they not have a say?
They have a say, and so one of staff's requirements is a written easement from the Racket Club saying that this is connecting here is okay.
So if they say no, this is kiboshed? Or are they just going to have to change the plan to where it enters Pleasant Plains directly?
They'd probably change their plan.
Okay.
So if they
Yeah.
if they go with this plan, we have a concern about the width of the street and making sure that they're not parking on the street, right? That's one observation.
Yes.
And then thanks, Lou. And then the second observation is that they're proposing a driveway that goes onto private property of the Swim and Racket Club. I think it's just do they still have the pool over there? I don't even know anymore. Anyway, regardless.
Yes, the pool is at the very back.
Okay.
And I don't, go ahead, Bill.
So we obviously have concerns about if they change the plan, we'd want to have a say in that, because I don't know about you all, but to me, having a driveway onto Pleasant Plains right beside another driveway would look awfully goofy. I'd like to hear how they're going to prevent the confusion and the goofy look. So Susan, if they do not get that permission, would this come back to us then the second time?
Maybe after we've discussed something, I tend to not bring it back unless there are significant changes. So I would call that a significant change.
Okay.
And you all are always welcome to attend the public hearing and provide comments to the
Good
board
point.
as a resident of the town of Matthews.
Bill, may I ask a question?
Please.
Susan, do they dedicate any additional right of way on Pleasant Plains? And are they probably going to seek a variance for any improvements on Pleasant Plains?
So one of staff's comments is to dedicate the ultimate right of way on Pleasant Plains Road. And they have not so far asked. Well, the only improvement that they're required to make is that 10-foot wide multi-use path, and they showed it not on this plan. I don't know why the updated plan isn't on here, but they showed it on an updated plan that staff reviewed on Monday, Tuesday.
So no curb and gutter or anything. Obviously, you would probably give them a variance on C and G, but I didn't know if they had to go specifically ask for it.
Well, so a lot of these subdivisions, like the two that are going in on Idlewild Road, we can't require curb and gutter. I'm not really sure why, but planning department said that there was some legislation enacted that we can't require curb and gutter. And unfortunately, there's no way for them to pay into a fund for curb and gutter.
All right, so I guess putting it back to what we have in front of us, I also would think that the 10-foot multi-use path would be, a necessity. It's kind of weird that it's just that one parcel. So you have this 10-foot wide multi-use path for just the length of the property, though, right? Yeah. Okay, well, it's a start anyway. I guess we could recommend that they, I don't know, would it be even reasonable to say that we would recommend that they continue that multi-use path on the other side of the driveway as well, meaning on the other side of the current racket club entry to somewhere?
So we did have a discussion about off-site sidewalk improvements. Recently we were able to get that on Idlewild Road from a subdivision because there was only one parcel that they had to cross to get to the destination, which is Idlewild Park. And they could make that improvement entirely in DOT right-of-way. They didn't have to acquire additional right-of-way or additional easements for that work. In this case, staff did not think, number one, that there was a destination. Like, how far, where do you chase that to? Where is the destination that the sidewalk is going? Right now, it's just filling in a piece that we hope will be there whenever we can secure funding again for Pleasant Plains side path. And we didn't think it could be done entirely in the right of way because it's a ditch section.
Yeah, I could see that would be confusing. Basically, they could take it as far as the highway. Right.
Seems like, and then there's that little 1 foot parapet people could walk on.
Do we have plans to widen Pleasant Plains in the future?
No plans to widen Pleasant Plains.
All right, let's see. So in terms of zoning,
before you move on, Bill, I think there's another problem with the internal arrangement of the roads that has to do with emergency services. There needs to be, I think, and Susan, pay attention to this, I believe there needs to be a turnaround capability at the end of dead-end streets. I don't know if there's a variance for that or what, but
there's a maximum length that you can have before the turnaround is required, and they are just under that because again, I don't know why the most updated one isn't here, but they had the dimensions showing. So that's 150 feet is that tail dead end before the turnaround is required, and this is 140, I think. So they made it just under that requirement.
But they could put a sign out on the end there, right? Where it comes off the Racket Club Road, they could put a sign there that says dead end.
I think Lou's talking about turnaround for emergency services, right, Lou?
yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so it's a maximum length that the fire truck will back up, and that's 150 feet. But Rob did say that he would check with Chief Rob to make sure that Chief Rob was okay with the 140 feet and didn't want to require that turnaround.
They could back it up.
What was that, Lou?
Because it doesn't go all the way to the property line, it looks like it's intended as a permanent arrangement.
I mean, Lou, they could drive all the way to the end, make a right, back it up along the straight line, and then go forward back down that curve. Emergency vehicles. They could do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they could.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a very short backup at that point. Instead of backing down the 140 length, they would just make a right turn, come back backwards, pass the road, and then make a right turn back on the main road. So they'd only go back about 30 feet.
Lou said something that triggered something else in my mind, which was that staff is going to request that they put permanent easements on here for future connections so that those streets can be extended should the adjacent parcels redevelop, that there could be an vehicular interconnectivity between private parcels.
Susan, The driveways appear to be single car driveways. Where's the second car going to park?
In the garage.
Not side by side driveways.
The second one goes in the driveway and one goes in the garage.
One will be on the street or one will be in the grass.
Exactly. So I will let the planners know that there's a concern about on-street parking.
In order for us to take some feedback back to the board, don't we need a vote?
No, this is just for you all to see what's going. I take our comments to staff. If you want to, you've never made a recommendation to the board on this or anything like this. I think sometimes there's been recommendations that I know I do it when I give my presentation. I think Rob might say like the TAC saw this and had concerns about the on-street parking. But if you want to do something written, you can, but I'm saying you don't have to.
You're going to be our voice back to the board at the moment. Okay.
The only other question, and then I have to drop off. I'm sorry, but how far back does the utility? Did you say it was an easement or just the right of way? Because
it's a 30-foot easement, and it's unclear where it lies within the parcel. I don't know if we can see the lines here. So usually those easements are centered on the lines. So here's that utility line right here.
Yep.
Pretty well into the parcel. And so it would be 15 feet on either side of that line.
So I just the proximity to the proposed trees there, right? Because I don't.
Yeah. So we're going to ask for clarification on what they are. Why are they
Otherwise,
there?
we'll be looking at the backyards of a bunch of duplexes, right?
Yeah, like what kind of landscaping would be required and proposed exactly.
Bill, you know this property this is.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said, you know whose property this is. I think if you put a roundabout on it, he'd get real excited. This is Eric Moore's Eric's parents' house, yeah.
Ah, okay. I thought he lived on that other road.
Actually,
Well, that's interesting.
if you look at the rezoning, it's Kent Moore. It's Eric's brother. You're correct. It is the Moore family property, but Kent Moore is the one who is.
I think it needs a roundabout, barricaded roundabouts.
Hush
Yeah,
now.
there you go.
Hush now.
One
That is
other
the only
thing.
one I was.
Go ahead, Susan.
I was just going to say that was the only rezoning that's upcoming that we haven't discussed. Were there any? I know Lou likes to look at the rezonings and has questions. So I don't know, Bill, if you want to take questions on other rezonings right now, or if you want to move to the next agenda item. And also with Chris leaving, we need to have a secretary.
Does somebody mind any motions in the time of adjournment? That would be great.
Okay.
Enjoy your cabin, Chris.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chris.
I'll make notes to pass along any info.
Okay, Susan, I would like to go back to the streets again. I'm a little confused. There are two lines there. One appears to be the street pavement. The other, I'm not sure. Is that sidewalks or what is the second
The
set?
drawing you're looking at.
Yes, what is the second set of lines?
Let me see if I can get my pencil up here.
While you're looking at that, I also had a question about that 100 feet and the red line.
I think it's at the notification zone, perhaps. 100 feet. It has something to do with a planning requirement of notifying people within 100 feet of the property.
I see. Okay.
So as you come off the driveway, you see this line here, and this line here is the new private street. And so if you keep following that line, here's the edge of pavement, all the way around. Okay. So that's the first one. The heavy line, of course, being the center line. The next line right here, this that I'm highlighting, trying to highlight in yellow, is the required 30-foot clear zone that we saw on the typical section. So you can't build within that additional 5 feet on either side. So that's just a 5-foot buffer where you can't have any shrubs or any vertical obstructions. That's the keep clear area for the streets. So there's no sidewalks proposed.
There are no sidewalks.
Staff is going to request that they provide sidewalks as an amenity to the neighbors.
Say that again.
Staff is going to request that they provide sidewalks as an amenity to the neighbors or the residents of this neighborhood.
Yes.
So Susan, you will put some yellow marks on that, on the dashed lines. What about that slightly more faded dashed lines a little bit further into the properties? What is that? Yeah, that one.
One, that is the building setback line. So you notice this guy right here is right up on that building setback line. Same with this one right here.
And all three of the back ones do as well.
And all the back ones.
Which is 20 feet, by the way, which means that you will be able to get one car, one SUV in there.
Yeah, no kidding.
And this one you can park an SUV and 2 subcompact cars in there. So they've got 4 parking spaces.
Maybe it's a smart car. Okay.
That relates to the internal parking situation for visitors.
So I think the concern is parking. Obviously, we've said that several times. So, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Parking, sidewalks, permission to use the driveway, intersect with the driveway of a private property. Any concern about the density in there?
Yes.
Unrelated to parking?
It's too dense.
I don't disagree with you at all, Lou, but do you want to qualify that a little bit?
The buildings are big. They occupy a lot of space. I haven't had a chance to calculate it, but I would say the runoff from that is going to be quite a bit. And there's little green area left. That's not a good plan to build that many big buildings. And someone asked earlier, how big? You can go to 35 feet high on an RVS. That would be 3 stories, of course. So that's a concern about that's a couple of concerns about the density. There's just too many buildings for that site.
Susan, why is the retention pond on the high side then, as you mentioned earlier?
I put that in my staff comments because especially if they're using a ditch section,
Yeah.
which is gravity flow, how are they going to get that back up to the pond? So the high spot's up here and then it flows.
So it should be down there where that other house is going to be.
So this high spot here.
Yeah.
And then it goes this way towards the racket club. So their pond is being proposed right here. They do have to go through preliminary stormwater review with the county. Our stormwater reviewer is a county employee. So I'm sure he'll have lots of great questions about how they plan to make water go uphill.
Okay.
Donnie, you're more than welcome to make observations and comments here since this is not a vote thing.
Okay.
You're always welcome to make observations and comments.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I definitely have concerns about the DMP location. I'm all too familiar with. challenges there. But yeah, and parking, yeah, clearly you cannot have any visitors.
Especially the people in the back, right? They have the shortest driveways.
In the back, yeah. And how about mail services? Do we know where the mail boxes are for these homes?
Mail service?
We usually cite during construction plan documents is when we, and we, usually you see it at the end of the street. I would expect that it would be somewhere in this stretch, because it's usually located on HOA property. So
on HOA,
Okay, well, here's what, sorry, Susan, here's what I've written down for observations. We have concerns about the parking. We are, I think, supportive of your recommendation for sidewalks for the benefit of the residents. The length of the roads and the inability to turn around at the ends of the end of the back road, specifically, right? We have some concerns about that. Just simply, the density is too much for that site. The retention on the retention pond being on the high side doesn't make sense to us. Now, as a transportation advisory committee, I don't have any problem putting that into our observations, but I'm not sure that
it's not transportation related, right?
Yeah, just land.
And we also back the recommendation to put a multi-use path, even though it's a short stretch of road. It's a step in the right direction. Anything else? What did I miss?
Yeah, well, how about, the town wants to make it walkability, they talk about, and they want putting all these new sidewalks in. How come they didn't request the builder to put sidewalks here?
We have. This is what they gave us. So remember in the beginning, I said, these are the staff comments, and sidewalks was one of the staff comments.
I mean, that goes against the town's plan.
I'll put that into the notes. Thanks, George.
This is also not transportation, but there is a legitimate concern about the trees and the power line.
Staff has requested more information and clarifying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They look to be in the same space.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one thing I didn't put on. Whoop, sorry. Gosh, I'm having issues here. The concern about the driveway and the private property. And I know we're basically reiterating a lot of what Susan has already said are staff concerns. So that's.
So the reiterations, I'm not gonna forward, just the one about the parking and the turnaround.
Okay.
Even though Rob is going to handle the turnaround, so I mean, I guess I'll just clarify with him that he checked back with Chief K on that. But so tell me more. You don't want a driveway onto private property, or you're just worried that the Racket Club doesn't know about it?
Yeah, it's more the latter. How could we be talking about a plan without that understanding of whether or not the Racket Club is?
Okay, so let's say the Racket Club says, please do, because they're making them repave their driveway or whatever arrangement they have. Do you still have an issue with the driveway being on Racket Club property if the Racket Club is gung-ho about it?
In tunnel vision, no. If the Racket Club is okay with it, I guess I'm okay with it.
Anyone else?
Anybody else? Any other thoughts?
It's better than having another road coming out 30 feet down on the Pleasant Plains.
I agree.
I just wanted to understand the nature of that comment.
Yeah. Gotcha, Susan. Thanks. Anything else? Okay. Susan, I'm going to recommend that we stop the rezoning discussions there. And move on to the upcoming Board of Commissioners presentation specifically related to the McKee Segment A.
Well, before you do that, are there any other rezonings that are coming up on February 8th?
I think just a text amendment that didn't have a transportation component. Public
text
hearing.
Amendment.
Yeah, this is just an amendment for our approved plan. So that does not have a transportation component. I think those are the only two. Levine, we've already seen. Lowe's is doesn't have a transportation component, and Idlewild Road we've already seen. So we've already discussed all the other ones.
Okay.
Those are board decisions. So the public hearing ones, we've already seen the others.
All right. Next agenda item.
So on the next Board of Commissioners meeting, which is January 25th. Oh, did anyone get to attend or watch the video of the January 11th Silver Line Rail Trail presentation?
Oh, no, I intend to do that. How'd it go?
Very uneventful. Very, very uneventful. So if you go to our transportation projects page, did I put a link on that? Oh, say it doesn't say. I'm trying to make it easy for you all to access these presentations by adding links as I can in this document here for you. Line. Sorry, don't watch. I'm scrolling. Okay. Here we go. Yes. So right here, I included a link to the recording of the meeting for you. And I need a space there. So you can go back and see it. Silver Line Rail Trail study. It was just an update. It didn't say this is where the rail trail is going. And I was expecting this is where the rail trail is going and this is how we're branding it, but I guess that's coming later.
Yeah.
But good to keep yourself.
And that's the part that really concerns us.
Yeah.
What?
Correct.
What is branding?
No, the part where it said, this is where the rail trail's going.
Yeah, we don't have that yet. So
Yeah, that's what I said. And that's really the part that concerns us.
that's a progress update so you can see where they've been. Okay, back to the 25th. McKee Road, segment A. So if you recall, 4 years ago, 2016, in April 2016, 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, the board voted to take $2 million of the $3 million that Erickson gave the town for their Windsor Run development and put it towards the McKee Road A project, which is the connection. I know most of you guys know this, but just to refresh your memory, McKee Road. Where am I at? There we go. It's this. Here's McKee Road here, Weddington Road over here, crossing Pleasant Plains. It's this missing section of McKee Road here that will improve Bill Stevens' mobility. And here's that new section that was built. So putting it towards McKee Road A so as to advance it in the State Transportation Improvement Program. So that was approved, and it said to put it towards construction of McKee Road Segment A. Well, everything's been paused, right? And so they released, the NCDOT released a list that said, okay, everything's paused, and here's the new schedule. And when I looked at the new schedule, McKee Road was like 2031 or something.
Wow.
And I'm just like, that's our money.
Yeah.
So I asked Dana what she could do about it. And so she wrote a letter to the DOT and said, hey, this is really needed for mobility. It's going to help, during 485 construction. She had her whole laundry list of the magic that she does to get our point across. And they said, well, we're stuck in right of way. And if you would let us use your $2 million to move forward on right of way, we can get this project moving so that we're ready for construction as more funds are released. So basically you advance the project so that when there's money ready, you're ready. You're like, pick me, I'm ready, as opposed to everyone else who still maybe is trying to design their project, right? So as money gets released, it gets allocated to projects that are more ready to get to construction. So we thought that was a fine idea. However, the original motion was to put it towards the construction of, and we thought that we took that very literally. And so we just want to tell the board, here's what's happening. Here's what we're proposing, that we let them use this money for this project, allocate it to right of way so they can move forward. And then the rest of the project budget will be moved into construction. And so that is what I'll be presenting on Monday night. Any
Are
questions?
you going to add a timeline to that?
Can't.
I mean, they could take our money, but we still don't see results for 5 years.
We don't pay them until it's done.
Oh, so the 2 million, I'm saying.
Right. So we'll have a municipal agreement that says when the right of way is complete, then we will pay them their $2 million.
Oh, okay.
And
It
what
was
is,
still up to the state to get the rights of way. And we'll pay them back. That's kind of the idea.
Kind of, yeah. But I mean, our municipal agreements are always written so that at the end of the project, then we pay up. It gives us the opportunity to save up money if we need to, but also holds them accountable to actually doing it.
Okay.
George, did you have a question?
no,
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well, I do.
Oh, sorry.
There's-
Maybe.
Did you say no, John?
I said no.
You said no. George. Said no. Okay. There's an associated problem, which is Morningdale Drive, which is the cut through the trailer park from Pleasant Plains to East John Street. That street is in terrible condition. It is a DOT street. It's got potholes all over it. It even had, last time I went down through there, it had signs saying it's temporarily closed, except it's temporarily closed to through traffic. Something needs to be done about that, especially with the delay on the McKee Road.
That's right. And those signs were probably a result of the town reaching out to the state over and over again, and then finally getting our board member involved. And so Hazen reached out to our Board of Transportation representative and said, please come to Matthews and drive the whole subdivision, not just Morningwood. It's the whole subdivision.
Yeah.
And so that was Tony Lathrop. And Tony said, thank you for letting me know. I will be out there to take a look at it. Because we have been hounding DOT for years about fixing potholes and drainage issues on Morningwood. And so hopefully with the involvement of the Board of Transportation member, then something might actually get done.
I didn't know that was Matthews. I thought that was in Union County.
No, it's Matthews.
No, it's split between the two. Where it comes off Pleasant Plains, it's in Stallings. Then when you get in about maybe a quarter of the way, it becomes Matthews.
Okay.
So it's split, but the great bulk of it, 3/4 of it roughly, are Matthews, within Matthews. But it's not a Matthews street, it's a DOT.
Yeah, you can see the line on the map that Susan is showing now.
Anything else about the McKee Road Segment A project? Okay. Oh, George?
Okay, I have a few things here. One, what's going on with the realignment of Privet Road onto Pleasant Plains?
Well, that was something you all were going to gather more information on and discuss as an agenda item. And I think we asked if this was something that wanted to be discussed and did not receive any responses. So I think Chris took it off the agenda because there was no response that people wanted to discuss it.
What people is that?
Well,
People.
yeah, all the TAC. So the agenda goes, it goes out to the TAC. And there was I don't know if it was I asked the question or Chris asked the question or we asked that at a meeting. Is this something that we're going to discuss, or does anyone have any information? And no one said anything. So if it's something that you want added, then you need to let Chris know or Bill know, so that if there's something that you want the TAC to discuss.
No, it'd be nice if it's done. All right. And the other thing is, how about reinstating the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit on Forward? Everybody goes 50 on it, and the cops sit there and get some of them. But
It's not Independence Boulevard. You can go back and read my memo about the analysis that I did to reduce the speed from 45 to 35. But due to the nature of the traffic, the nature of the road itself, the fact that people die at higher speeds, the amount of pedestrian traffic that's going to be there, Axe is going to finish up their last phase, which includes a multi-use path on their side, a side path on their side. So we already have a bunch of pedestrians out there. We already have a bunch of cyclists out there. And we need to protect our vulnerable modes.
What statistics are you basing that on for Forward? There's that many deaths on Forward Avenue going at 45 miles an hour?
No. It's statistics as far as at what speed the vehicle is going and strikes a pedestrian or cyclist, and the rate that happens and the person dies. Right?
Well,
so you can do research on visionzero.com or .org about speeds.
51, you're going downhill now. You're going down grade. Right? And if you're at 35 miles an hour, by the time you get down to where Carrington is, you're up 45 and 50 miles an hour if you don't brake.
Right. You can control your speed. And it's 1 mile. It's 1 mile. So for that 1 mile, I think people can control themselves and go 35 for the safety of our vulnerable modes.
Well, I think I make a motion that we should reinstate that 45 mile an hour speed limit on Forward.
Can we do that?
It's a motion. It's a motion.
It's a motion.
Okay, but what happens if we approve? I mean, what goes back to Susan, and then it's up to Susan, or who's it up to? I'm just asking.
I'm kind of reading between the lines here, but my hunch is that that vote would be presented back to the Board of Commissioners, that we took a vote and recommended in favor of changing it back to 45, and Susan would be vocal in saying that is not her recommendation. Am I fair enough in saying that, Susan?
You all don't make reports to the board. So how you want me to make this report to the board? Is Bill going to speak at the board? Are you other commissions or other advisory committees do annual reports to the board, and the TAC, it's my understanding that the TAC doesn't do a report to the board, and the mayor hasn't asked the TAC to do a report. I'm not blaming you all. It says upon request by the mayor, the TAC makes a report to the board. So
we haven't in the past, Susan, and I don't know that we've done in the last, we certainly didn't do it in 2020,
Right.
But we have in the past, just not every year.
Yeah, because I did it 1 year.
Yep.
As a review committee, I think we are supposed to provide information to the board. And I'm not sure exactly how to provide information to the board. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that's delivered. If it's delivered by staff, that's fine, but it needs to be delivered in some manner when we've made a motion and approved. Or even when we've made a motion and disapproved.
I think it's a very tough sell. Y'all vote the way you want to, but I think it's a tough sell that you have a licensed professional engineer who did an analysis and made a recommendation that was voted on. And then just because you feel like driving faster, you want the speed limit increase. That's a terrible precedent to set. And I'm not saying anyone's a terrible person. I just think it's a bad precedent to set. Let's say if I'm on the TAC and I want to drive faster, I get to make a motion that says the speed limit should be higher. This is a data-driven effort, and I use data to determine that a speed limit should be 35.
Well,
the problem is that everyone, not just us on the TAC, is voting with their feet. There are very few, if any, people that drive 35. It ranges from 40 to 45 or faster. It's being ignored, which leads to a contempt for the law.
Shall I
Yes.
request the police department place driver feedback signs so we can get,
it's not reasonable to have a law that is continuously violated.
Well, if we can't come to agreement, let's table this for the next meeting.
That's fine.
did you all want me to request the police department place driver feedback signs on Fullwood?
So are those the ones that say you're doing speed limit's 35, you're doing 45?
Yes.
And then do they get a report of how many cars were actually caught going over 35? Is that what that does?
Yeah, it depends on how they program it. So they can, if we want them to.
Can they also zone in and say cars doing 35 to 45 was 4,000, cars are doing over 45 or 500? I mean, does it do that detail?
Count.
Well, that's a bad way to do it because you got the police down there cracking down on people.
No,
Well,
I
they
know.
do this-
There's a lot of summonses over there.
And I'm talking about putting the sign up so they have some analysis, George.
A counter, putting up a counter. Now, there is one thing though, if you're going to do that legitimately, you need to do away with the flashing lights that say you're over the speed limit because some people it's a false study if you do that.
The
So
way
they-
the police department and I run it is that the first week the feedback is turned off, and then the second week the feedback is turned on. So the first week it's blank; it doesn't say anything. It just says the speed limit is this, and then there's a blank box underneath it. And then the second week, and maybe people are like, "Oh, hey, we know that they're collecting data, but it looks like it's broken or whatever." On that first week. And so that's kind of that buffer that you're talking about, Lou, that people don't realize that the data is being collected, and then you turn it on. And so people know how fast they're really going. And again, so we want to make a motion to ditch all speed study standards and just go with how fast people want to drive.
All right, so I think the recommendation from George was at this point to put it onto a future agenda item, Susan. I'd be in support of that. Let's talk about the specific recommendation to have some data to back up who goes what speed there. Okay,
I mean, it worked for all these years. All of a sudden now you change it.
Development is increasing, and the nature of the adjacent development, you have a lot of elderly people who are using that now. There's the nursing home.
Hey, I'm
There's
elderly,
plantation
and I use
estates.
it, and I have no
Yep.
problem.
Yeah, and so you're a great driver, but a lot of people who are elderly, their reaction time is slower and their vision isn't as good. You also have student drivers who are at the school, well, not now, or maybe they're there now, I'm not sure, who are accessing that school. There's a high school there. So student drivers don't make good decisions. They also aren't as confident in their driving, so they tend to take longer and need better gaps. And then you have Eden Hall is also age-restricted housing. So all of this influx of age-restricted housing causes me great concern with the speeding going on Fullwood. Okay, so we have some vulnerable drivers who are continuously accessing that road, who are putting in danger.
In addition to the count, let's also ask for an accident report before when it was 35. You'll have to pick a date for that. And when it was 45, and an accident report for now when it's 45. In other words, what actually happened.
if we have that data, I think that's good consideration, although I think what Susan's saying is the character of the road has changed. So I'm not sure how relevant it will be in current day. But it's data, right? It's data we take into consideration. Anybody opposed to asking the police department to put the counter out there and get some data before?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay, there's not a formal motion, but yeah, Susan, if you could make that request to the police department, I think that'd be helpful. And then we'll put this as a future agenda item.
And also
Um,
crash data. I'll request from the police department as well.
Thank you. I understand that might be hard to come by in previous data. I don't know. It goes back a few years. All right. Anything else, George?
Well, let's see. I mentioned one before about putting a dedicated right lane from Weddington Road onto Privet.
From Weddington Road onto Privet?
Yeah.
No, Pleasant Plains. He means Pleasant Plains.
Dedicated lane there. Now it's 2 lanes. 2 turns, left and right.
Weddington Road to Pleasant Plains.
Yes.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, you mean the brand new road they just built?
Yes. They used
Well,
that road was a dedicated right turn onto Pleasant Plains. Now they made it, instead of being dedicated, you have a choice, left or right.
So there's no dedicated right turn lane?
No, it's
No.
away with it.
Okay.
the dedicated right turn lane went away.
Can I?
Plan was for it always to go away.
What did you say, Ralph? I've missed it.
The plan was for it always to go away. It was always to be a double left once the double left receiving lanes were finished.
Mm.
Well,
You go back to the 2006 plan for the whole project.
well,
It's right
okay.
there, starting in the original design.
So the plan was executed, but what George is saying is it needs to be put back into the operation.
And I hear you, and I think what your concern will be more of is once they build the interchange for 485 on the Weddington,
Yeah.
all that traffic coming toward Trade to make a right onto Pleasant Plains, all that, rush hour traffic once we're back to normal for Ashley Creek, Brightmoor, all those developments down there on the right, Thornblade, all those people are going to be lined up down the road waiting for the light to turn every time because all those people can't move until the traffic makes the left turn to get out of the way. So
That's a good description of the problem.
Yeah.
So there are still 2 lanes there. 2 lanes turn left, and the right, most of those 2 lanes also turns right.
Yeah.
And so the recommendation, I think, George, would be, if anything, would probably be to have another lane built, a 3rd lane. Is that
The 3rd lane, put additional, just right turn only.
okay? I tend to think that this requires a little more time than what we have tonight, at least what I want to give to it. Could I suggest that we make this an agenda item for the next meeting?
Fine with me.
Okay. I'll make that in the notes. All right. And when Chris sends out these minutes and the agenda for the upcoming meeting, if you wanted to chime in with any additional feedback or any additional information that we should potentially put on the agenda, please send them that feedback right away. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Ralph? Ralph, are you making a motion to adjourn, or did you want to say something? You're on mute.
if Ralph doesn't have anything, I make a motion.
Ralph, you've been on mute. We haven't heard any of that. Can you take yourself off mute?
Sorry about that. The reason I attended tonight was actually I didn't see on the agenda an opportunity for any public comment. I think we used to put that on there, even though nobody showed up. But like the downtown mobility study indicated a pedestrian greenway path, dirtway path from the end of South Fremont Street to the intersection of Fullwood and at the Plantation traffic signal. Well, Matthews Glen traffic signal now. It's only about 125 feet long, and I wanted to request that the Transportation Committee ask Public Works and Parks and Recreation to look at the feasibility and a schedule for constructing that very, very, very short greenway section through the woods there to come out at the traffic light. Adjacent to my property is Rainbow Express, a ministry of Methodist Church for developmentally disabled adults. They go often to the White House, which was the house that was moved to Fullwood and the Tonson Court. It's currently being renovated. That's the second part of their ministry. And they are looking for a easier way to get between the two.
So, Ralph, you called it a greenway extension. Is that right? Did I get that right?
At the end of the very, very end of South Fremont Street.
Yep. So that
Right
would
there.
enable people to walk and bike from South Fremont
From the
Street
end of
over Pleasant
Fremont.
Plains and vice versa.
Oh, no, over across Fullwood at the traffic signal, and then up the existing sidewalk on Fullwood to the White House, which is the other ministry house for Rainbow Express.
Oh, can somebody center that and zoom it? Even on my PC, it's coming up awfully small. Yeah, okay. Now, where is this proposed to be?
Right there, where Fremont ends. They're actually, if requested, Plantation has to dedicate a right-of-way from the end of South Fremont right-of-way all the way to the traffic signal as part of their zoning conditions. And you'll see the very short bit of green from the end of the pavement on Fremont to the pavement there at the driveway at the traffic signal. And of course, there's a crosswalk there across Fremont and walk lights. And then they could take the sidewalk up the, from here, this drawing, the left side there, up to the White House and on, the rest to connect to the rest of the city.
That's,
So you're only talking about a walkway, correct? Not a road.
Right. Just a walkway.
Okay. Because I think there's a gate there. That's why I asked.
No, and your downtown feasibility study even shows this path.
Okay.
So basically, we would just be reiterating to the Board of Commissioners that we think this is a good idea
Let's
to
get going.
execute on this mobility study piece.
And to get Public Works and Parks and Rec involved in getting it going.
Right. So staff needs to have a recommendation. TAC can say, we heard a request to investigate the pedestrian connection from South Fremont to Fullwood. And, TAC recommends the board authorizes work to move forward. Or, I don't know, Ralph, is it just requesting staff to look into it? Because we are tackling mobility study items as, they can be rolled into other projects. So I think even just at a staff level, we can start looking at it.
Well, certain Public Works construct this with with just a Bobcat and some dirt. I mean, like I said, it's like 120 feet.
Sorry, Ralph. Let's get back to the specific question to Susan. We have an option. We can make a motion, or we could, or I guess your request could be directed specifically at staff to
Develop a plan to implement this greenway and present it back to the TAC either next month or the following month.
Next
I
month.
have no problem, Ralph, but does a greenway fall under us? Do we have anything do we have a say to present that, Susan?
We literally just had a discussion about that earlier. Let me bring that back up.
I mean, I don't care if I don't care if we do it, but we're talking about adding a greenway, and does that even fall under us to make a recommendation?
Of course, it's transportation. He's talking about making a connection
Yeah,
for
I
people
know.
to get from one place to another. He's not talking about make a recreational facility.
No, I know.
Right.
I know.
So he is talking about a transportation facility.
The
Okay.
answer is
All right.
yes.
All right. That's all I was asking, if it fell under us or not. That's all.
Can you go back to the map, please? What would happen in the, what would the configuration be when the pathway gets to, and I forget what they call it now, Plantation, previously Plantation Estates property? What, it looks like you would have to go all the way out to Fullwood on their property if you make the path complete. There's no way to walk or bike in that street.
You could on an e-bike.
It's not a street. It's a walkway.
No, that road there is a road. Could it go
It's
around
a
to the top
driveway.
side of that?
You
Could it go
cross-
to the top side? No, I
Yeah,
was
you
saying-
go there, just like the blue line. And
I was going to
I don't know
say,
why
could we
this is
go
so
around the
difficult.
top side and go to the crosswalk? Yeah, right
then you're
there.
adding a lot more cost and
This is
pavement.
a wall right
We're
here.
going to go to the
Oh.
traffic
This is a
light.
wall.
Okay.
So that's why this corner does not have a crossing, is because of that wall there.
So we would be crossing over their road, Plantation Crossings Drive. So I guess we would need permission from them as well then.
Well,
You have to do one of two things. You have to either get permission or you have to go ahead and execute the zoning condition that they've got, that they have to dedicate a 60-foot right-of-way from Fullwood to the end of Fremont anytime you request it. That's one of their zoning conditions.
Oh.
So I like I don't know if it's even realistic, Susan, but I like the idea of recommending that we review a plan that the mobility study had for this at our next meeting or March meeting.
The mobility study showed a line. So
That's
there's no plan. They just showed like, this is a missing connection. So we can see where it ranked. So if you want me to bring that back, and then I can also research this zoning condition if you, I'm bringing a lot back to the next meeting.
Ralph, would you put up a protest if we said we'd review it in March?
That'd be fine.
Okay. I'll put it on the recommendation for a March agenda item. Any other discussion about this? Thank you, Ralph. This is compelling.
Bill, Ralph brings up a good point that I've asked you guys about before, is do you want to add public comment at the beginning? I recommend beginning, but you can do end of the agenda as well, because we tend, every now and then we do have a guest that may want to speak.
Good point. Good point. I'm not opposed to it. Anybody else want to support that?
I will. I don't have a problem with it. And if you do put it, like Susan said at the beginning, then it allows them to make their point and then get off. They don't have to listen to all this to get to their point.
I'll second that. Did you make a motion, Vic?
I'm making them up. Well, I thought Bill was, but no.
Well, I was not making a specific motion. I don't know that we need a motion for agenda items. We just do it.
Okay.
I would like a motion, if you wouldn't mind, because our bylaws tend to prescribe how the meeting should be run and in what order and what agenda items there should be. So it would be great to have a motion just to formalize it.
Okay. Okay. Vince, you want to turn that into a motion?
I'll make a motion. to put it on the agenda item for guests to talk at the very beginning of our agenda after the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Would like to see some kind of, okay. Well, discussion. Well, would like to see some kind of time limit placed on that. If somebody gets into a speech mode, it could take a whole lot of time out of our meeting.
That's a good point, Lou. What does the town board do for public input? Do they put a
4
time limit
minutes?
on things still?
4
Yeah,
minutes.
4 minutes.
We could maintain the same consistency then. I think that was Bill's one screen. We lost Bill's other screen. I think we could maintain the same consistency and do a 4-minute maximum talk. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Okay. Susan, you okay with that too?
I think it's great. I would love
Okay.
to see more public comment at your meetings.
Okay.
I'm just looking to see if there's anything in the handbook. I mean, I've read through it, but I can't reference it off the top of my head, like the bylaws. It just says meetings will be scheduled at a time that encourages public attendance, public notices. It doesn't really say when that public input should be included in the agenda. So I'm going to ask Lori. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it needs to be part of.
Is this going to be a zoning change? Does it have to go before the zoning board?
It would be a bylaws change, which goes before you.
Sorry, everybody. My phone audio died, so I had to come in with my computer audio, and I don't have video on this. So, okay, can you hear me just fine?
Yes, thank
Yes.
you.
Okay, I did hear most of that conversation. So I guess I think it becomes a bylaw change. Is that what the final discussion was?
Perhaps I'm going to ask Lori about this because I'm pointing to my screen like you can see this. I pulled up the handbook and it just says call to order, approval of minutes, unfinished business, new business, and adjournment. I would like to see this a global change for all committees, so that goes in the handbook and it goes in our bylaws, that we take public comment after approval of previous meeting minutes. Maybe there's a reason it's not in there, in which case she can tell us. Sound good?
I mean, they encourage, but yet we don't give them a slot. So
Exactly.
kind of Ralph brings up a good point about that.
Exactly.
Okay. So are we withdrawing the motion or postponing the motion?
I would like a motion to prepare the next meeting's agenda. That we can have bylaws inserted in for next meeting's agenda, and I'll bring you back more information on this with Lori's advice. But I would like a motion so that in February we can take public comment after approval of previous meeting minutes.
Okay, so it's a motion for an agenda item of public comment specifically for the February meeting.
And
Sorry, that is what you're requesting, Susan?
That's what I'm requesting. Yeah.
Okay.
only for the February meeting.
Until
Say
I
that
can
again,
get,
George?
Only for the February meeting.
until I can get more information from Lori.
So you get only one time, for public input. Otherwise, you would be bogged down with so much. We wouldn't have enough time.
Vince, do you want to redo your motion?
Not sure what you want me to say now. I mean, other than public, comments from the public with a 4-minute max, put in under approval of minutes and
the
before
February
staff
meeting.
announcements.
For the February meeting.
Per the February meeting. That's all.
You need a second? I'll second it.
You have to repeat what I said there, George. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, actually, that's
I've run out of coffee. I'm getting punchy.
actually that's required normally, but a repeat of the motion, but will not be done.
Would it suffice for me to? I'm not able to read it verbatim, but I could paraphrase what I wrote.
That's fine. That's fine.
Vince has made an agenda, made a motion for us to add an agenda item for public input at the beginning of the meeting after approval of the minutes with a 4-minute per person time limit for the February meeting,
Perfect.
2021.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, let's continue with George, did I hear that you seconded it, or
Yeah, I second.
Lou, what's your vote?
Approve.
Chris? Well, Chris isn't with us. I'll approve as well. So
We
that's
still have a majority.
okay. We still have a majority. Okay, 4 out of 4 passed. Okay. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Vince, and George and Lou, of course, as well.
Thanks, Ralph, for your input.
Yes, thank you, Ralph. And it's on the agenda for March.
Yeah, Ralph said peace out as soon as he said what he had to say.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Bill, do you want to ask Donnie if he has any updates?
Donnie, do you have any updates?
Oh yeah, so there was a CTAG meeting on Tuesday, and there were no material developments. It was maybe a 2025. I'm not on mute, am I?
No,
No, we
we're
can
good.
hear you.
Okay, good. Maybe a 25 minute meeting. CEO comments and COVID safety update. Similar to the last meeting, which was like November, if memory serves me. And so I think, Bill, you asked me the last time or Susan, the two of you maybe, would I as a former bus rider, would I feel comfortable going back to riding the bus? And actually, the CEO, the question was asked, have they reduced or considered reducing their expenditures on security with reduced ridership? Ridership's down 53% year over year. The routes, they have not canceled any routes outright, but they've of course reduced frequency. And the answer was regarding security, no, they've not cut back on security. And so, and that was my concern, was as clean as the buses may be, they're talking about adding technology. They're looking into investing in new technology, some infrared disinfecting that they're experimenting with. As clean as the buses may be, if ridership's still down 50%, 53%, or let's say it's only 30%, I'm not going to feel as safe if they're going to cut back on security at the bus depots. So there's coronavirus concerns, but there's also security, and they're addressing both. Financially, CATS is sound. They've received some CARES funds. They have they've used them for capital expenditures, not for survivability, for payroll or anything of that nature. And then that was really it. Again, very, very quick meeting. They weren't any materials. The packet was really just the agenda. I can
Johnny, just a note, Johnny, your microphone is rubbing up against your collar and your sweater.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. So the materials. Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Just the last 2 minutes, I think, were pretty muffled. So if you could go through that again.
Yeah. Well, really, sorry. I was just going to say that it was CEO comments and COVID safety matters were addressed. The agenda was just those two items. There were no materials that were shared other than the agenda itself. So with ridership down 53% was my point. They've obviously cut back on frequency of buses. They've cut back on they've temporarily suspended, as we know, the 65X and other express services, but they haven't canceled them outright for indefinitely. And as ridership does ramp up, they'll bring them back on. They're testing out new technology for cleaning the buses, infrared disinfecting, and taking other precautions. But then the question was asked: have they cut back on security to save money? And no, they've still got their same security contractor, and they've not cut back on security there, even though ridership is down significantly. There was a brief update on the Gold Line, which doesn't impact us so much being out here in Matthews, and that's on track for testing this spring. And they're right now targeting an April opening, I believe is what they said. And that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, and I know if you want to just informally keep me on the agenda to present that with the meetings going on, Vince, I see you raising your hand with the meetings with CTAG occurring on Tuesdays and this occurring on a Thursday, the following Thursday. It's tough to be specific with the agenda items, but if you want to just plan on an update, I'm happy to do that.
Will do. Yep. Susan.
Okay. And
Susan, you're a lot better at remembering to remind, I should say, to invite Donnie for an update. I guess if you could help keep us honest on that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think, we see you, Vince. Hang on a second. I think, we do basically I'm glancing through to see who's here. And, do they want to speak? And I think maybe that's a good time for Donnie to speak too. Would be during kind of like public comments, since or we could just keep it as an unfinished business item, which is CTAG update. Maybe that's more appropriate as unfinished business.
Yeah, my feelings aren't hurt if I'm, yeah.
That's what we've done in the past.
Stick
We
through
could
to
do
the
that.
end too. Vince had his hand up.
Well, I'm kind of bringing up another can of worms here, but why don't we just add that as a line item? That CTAG update is all, because he's not even on there on our agenda. And if we're going to ask Donnie to go to the meetings and give us an update, shouldn't we make that a line item?
Yep. A
So
CTAG
we're right
update
back to
under,
this. We're right back to the same motion we just made. I'd like to make another motion then that CTAG update would be added after unfinished business or
Well,
part of unfinished business. You guys tell me where you'd rather slip it in.
there you go. I think we could slip it in just based on our discussion under unfinished business, and that wouldn't require a motion.
Okay. Well, I just think we
Any
need to make it a
opposition to
line item.
that?
I agree.
Okay, I'll put it in the notes to add a CTAG update under unfinished business.
That's fine with me. And I wish I had more to report for you, but I think as things open up and and the other thing was someone did ask, are they going to redeploy buses for to potential vaccination sites? And that's not in the works. So they're considering it, but since the vaccination sites are really, I'm not familiar with the condition of the status of them right now, but apparently they're just drive up, so the buses would serve no benefit. But if there's a full scale deployment, and we're maybe to the Bojangles Arena, that sort of thing, they're considering it, but nothing formal right now.
Thanks, Donnie.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? Susan, did you have anything else for us?
No, I didn't. Happy New Year, everyone. It's great to see everyone.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
I missed our social in December. I missed us not having it.
Likewise. All
Of course, I
right.
was drinking. All right. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.